They cannot obviate. The troll babe is indeed hurt on that failure.
Yeah.
And there is no getting around it. You cannot unhurt her by rolling the die again.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And now that I think of it, like, we kind of did it like that intuitively a little bit, but like not fully aware of what we were doing, I guess. Mm-hmm. Because by the rules and how I intended them, it is what I said, that and every other time that we did a reroll, it was like that it was essentially just a mathematical numeric thing. But in that specific instance, certain people had not chosen whether they were going to reroll, and after we started narrating, they kind of did after, and we didn't overwrite the previous narration, we just kind of kept it in. So that kind of happened naturally. And now I see what your point is, that that would, if that was explicit, that would be even better.
Well, not only if it's explicit, but that even the way you played it basically obviated and negated the first person who succeeded. He got nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm
Well, he got the... Well, he got the, because he was first at the beginning, then he was second, but he got that he won he won the argument, and that was not erased. Like he won the argument.
That's not the point. The point is what happens to the suspect.
Oh, okay.
I mean, basically, you're saying, you got your punch in, but then he knocked you out. Well, so what?
Right.
I mean, if you got your punch in, does he now have damage knocked off him? Or, did something happen because the fact before the rerolls, this guy succeeded. This guy won.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something happens that matters at this time because of it. He wins this part. And or there is something that occurs. As I keep saying, the troll baby is hurt. She may win the conflict due to the additional roll by checking off a relationship or something. But she's going to walk out of that conflict hurt. Now, this isn't a violent conflict, or rather, this isn't a fight conflict in the bigger sense. The bigger sense is what happens to the suspect.
Right, but
so what happens in the favor of what this first successful person gets?
So do you want to know my opinion in terms of like how I would want to generally structure the rules, or do you want to know in the instance that I was telling you?
Neither. What I'm trying to say is, do you understand my concern?
Oh, yes.
In that case,
100%.
Good.
Yeah.
Take it away, walk away with it.
Sorry.
Ruminate, do something else, or do what you will in the next time you play.
Yeah.
But keep in mind that these alleged, you cannot dress up a meaningless, you cannot dress up things with required narration any more than you can say, every time you roll, make sure you describe what you do. Well, that's true, except that it's not true.
So, just a question: do you think that because the way that I understand Troll Babe is that that I understand failed. Again, when I say narration, I mean like narrational authority, right? So I mean like in the strictest sense of the term. Right. I'm not just saying in the sense of people saying things. Right. But when I play Troll Babe, and like recently actually at this I actually had a very successful Troll Babe experience that I really enjoyed. Oh, you read about it, sorry. But the way that I understand rerolls is that the outcome of the conflict is not resolved. Then obviously, the troll baby is hurt and whatever. So you call that an additional outcome, or is that like, it's part of? So you're saying that if there is no additional element of the outcome that is resolved with a reroll, then if it's just narration, it's meaningless, or like not meaningless, but like it's just craft, or it's just.
I would tend to say so. Yes. Now.
Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, think when the idea that the troll babe is injured and that she walks away from this conflict with this injury, I don't know if you want to call that outcome or not. In the casual sense of the word, it is absolutely part of the outcome.
Yeah.
If you just want to say, well, the outcome was that this conflict was failed, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
the sheep got eaten, that's the outcome of the conflict, and she is injured as part of the new situation, the continuation
Yes.
of the scene.
Yeah.
That makes perfectly, that's, I don't care how you phrase it, either way is fine.
Right. Yeah.
But the
Okay. Fair
idea,
enough. I get what you were trying to say.
yeah, excellent. There's a lot of games with rerolls out there, and frankly, all they should have done was simply make it easier to succeed in the first place.
Yeah.
And by saying, oh, but they had to narrate a thing to get the reroll, it's like, there you go, singing for your supper again. Forgetting the fact that if prior to a resolution procedure, we say enough and have said enough already, perhaps in earlier steps, to know what's going on, and even perhaps leaving it a little bit empty right there, terrifying all of the fans it anyway. But because the person with narration authority is happy to fill in the gap of what was done right then. How many times has somebody said, I get a critical on the goblin, and then the DM describes how they wound up and got to the point that they could have gotten a critical hit, and nobody minds.
Yeah.
It's okay. Because at that point, late in the conflict, we know so many other things and are situated that it's okay that the person just happily rolled without stating exactly what they were doing, because we're okay with the narration filling that in.
Yeah.
And that is not that bad a thing. I do not want to be so rigid with the description requirements for every little step, right? Remember those 4 arrows for the pool and how you could kind of slide along how much you know or how much has been stated, especially in regard to an outcome. And I think that that's something to, so that's why would nail down a fictional / consequential, often numerical component of that first victory.
Yes.
And that's irreconcilable. You can't turn that back.
Yeah.
Right? Even if you choose to extend the conflict. I mean, what you're describing sounds pretty much a little bit like Dogs in the Vineyard. I'm getting nowhere talking. I'm going to my fists.
Yeah.
And that's not a little bit thing. I mean, there are elements of Dogs in the Vineyard that are.
I love that strong shit about dogs.
Yeah, I agree.
I really love that shit.
So do you see what I mean? But I do think that one minor quibble I would have with it in Dogs is that, well, what did he get out of talking successfully?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, doesn't that at least knock a die off of the guy going to his fist? Hasn't that guy's, fisticuffs been set back a little? Doesn't he lose? Isn't he rattled mentally by the effectiveness of what the guy said?
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. So, or some, perhaps it has to do with the final outcome. There are aspects of what happens to the suspect that are given now nuance because that guy did get his words in.
Yeah.
Wherever it is. You see, I just said 2 different ways. One had to do with some impact on the final outcome. One had to do on the effectiveness of the counter-strike. Either one.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are others. Now that I've got you thinking about that stuff, I'm done.
Yeah. I'll think about it. Thanks. That was very, very interesting and good to think about.
So let's take a look, though. I'm just talk fictionally now. What did in the first session? Wait, did they both have the same mystery? Both of the sessions?
Yes.
Okay.
Same mystery.
In that case,
first session we didn't get to the end.
So
all right. The princess. So I left the motivation we had the discussion about this with Lorenzo, who's writing the mystery, and
let's
like
go step by step. Who killed whom?
The princess killed the alchemist.
Got it. Now.
Yeah. Yes.
How?
Royal princess, so not
Right.
sovereign.
With a what? With what?
Poison.
With poison in the
Alchemists. Oh no, wait. Well, where did he die, or
Yes.
where was he poisoned? Those are different places.
All right. No, where was he poisoned?
In the prince's sovereign prince's study while talking to him.
Excellent. Okay. So now that we have opened our clue envelope,
Yep.
and so the point being, in the first session, what was the sequential pieces of knowledge gained?
Right. So in the first one is a bit hazy because it happened longer ago, but I think that they immediately so the everybody goes to the murder, to the room of the crime, the scene of the crime, which is actually not the scene of the crime, but the apparent scene of the crime, which is the alchemist's room.
The corpse room.
The corpse room, yes. Right. And so both groups kind of understood that something was off, because what actually was in that room was that the room was consumed by some sort of alchemical agent, which was burning down and dissolving organic matter. So the corpse was essentially a skeleton, almost, or essentially so dried up to be unrecognizable. The first group didn't really kind of get it. The second group immediately suspected the right thing, which is like, oh, this is a cover-up. And they started looking for signs of other stuff, right? So that obviously was a alchemical weapon developed by the alchemist that exploded for some reason. Cover-up, I'll explain that later. But the first group, they started investigating. They found a vial of the bomb substance that was used. And they found the signs of the alchemist attempting to prepare an antidote, which one of the characters that I had placed on for that purpose as being a botanist rolled very high and recognized the provenance of that this is probably a attempt at making an antidote, which then I provided the clue. Then they went to the next door room, which is a friend of the alchemist who was, again, secretly a poisoner. And she wasn't the culprit, but she had brought a plant to make poison with in case the diplomacy went south, essentially. And the plant was smelly, so they gathered some info around, and then they discovered she had it. But they wasted a bunch of time, and the clock thing where she throws it away happened. So when they went to her room, she had left to get rid of the plant, and then she came back. So first they looked through her room, and they found some signs of poison, of this remains of this plant. Then they came in, they interrogated her, initially suspected her, then decided she was probably not the culprit because she had no reason to want to kill the alchemist.
Right. So in other words, they had some indication of means, but not of motive.
Yes, like she had no motive to kill the alchemist. So they're like,
okay,
well,
so stop there. I think that's stop there. That's the first group. Did I get confused?
Yeah.
Right. The second group, did the sequence go differently? And before the big split, by the way.
Yeah. So the second group, the way that they got to the poison part was a lot faster because they immediately thought of it. And then a character made a really, really good roll where he actually literally the surgeon character risked health resource. I thought it was great by literally putting his hands on the corpse that's still fucking
that'll risk a health resource for you, right?
Yeah, filled with fucking necrotic
I gotcha.
alchemy. Yeah, so he burned off his fucking hand doing that. but then like managed to smell the poison and then gave it to the botanist nun. And then botanist nun, at that point he had already gotten full success, so I didn't think that was worth asking for another role. I just gave it to them right away, and so they went there a lot faster. And so they actually like the conversation with Julia, with the poisoner lady, went a lot smoother, and they had as well a lot of a better role. And so she kind of gave away all of the information right away, and kind of immediately said, look, I have this plant. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was used to murder the guy. I didn't do it, and some roots are missing from it. I have no idea who went into my room. So she was like a lot more
deceptive.
Also because of their, less deceptive, right?
Okay, right.
Yeah. So they managed to kind of convince her, both through their approach and the way they had a pretty good role with her, to give out all the information she knows. And they also came to know that she was in a relationship with the hereditary prince, who is another character we haven't mentioned. So that allowed them to immediately start suspecting, like, oh, why? Okay, who took this plant, right? Who stole the roots to make the poison? So they went into a completely different direction than the other group from this point. It was pretty similar up to this point, but then afterwards it went in very different directions.
Okay.
Then the other difference is that the second group found the signs of the lantern, where the alchemist was collaborating with the lady from the other nation and sending lantern signals. And so some people went to go investigate that, while the first group didn't even see the lantern or get interested in the lantern. So they missed that entire part of backstory. They just didn't care, right?
So, okay.
And then shortly after the Inquisitor monk came along, in both cases, because that's usually when I bring him along, if they go, essentially my idea is like, okay, if they go to visit Julia, then he shows up shortly after. If they don't go visit Julia, then he goes to beat her up immediately, right? So in both cases, they went to visit Julia early. So then I had him showed up shortly after. Then some people from the first group really hated the guy. So like one character just spent the entire session trying to stop the guy, and the others kind of like just let him go. So they stopped him and then let him go away. So that also was different.
All right. Well, there's a lot to learn from these, but one of the things that will occur after you sort of attend to that resource business, the clock movement is clearly something that you have to play through in order to see how it goes. You can't sort of preset how it's going to go by definition. So
yes,
at the moment, you might just leave the clock stuff where it is, and now with the changes in the resources, then you'll see whether people advance the clock as such instead.
I don't understand what you're saying. Sorry.
If there are less, if the resources are not such a giveaway, so that you feel your resource loss when you get those additional rolls. If that's the case, then people may be more inclined to roll against the clock, as you mentioned earlier. And so rather than mess with the mechanics of the clock right now, it might be good to leave them where they are in terms of what advancing the clock actually does. Just leave them where they are rather than fiddling with them as well.
I think what I'm going to do is just roll less for it. That's it. Like, just let them roll for it, and I, as a GM, as a keeper, I roll less for it myself. This is what
But isn't the clock advancing a good thing?
Well, it changes the situation, so that's good. But I don't want to just kind of like, there was a moment in the second session that I felt, oh, this is not advancing fast enough. I want to roll again, and then I'm
Right,
like,
got it. Yeah, you might want to just take it
but
out of
I
there.
shouldn't fucking do this
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I like now I'm forcing it, right?
Right. I see what you
So
mean.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
No, that's I see. As I say though, you have two dials to spin here. Dial number
yeah,
one is their relationship to their resources and whether they're going
hmm
to employ time as a resource to risk.
yes,
Dial number one. Dial number two, whether you are in fact advancing time in a regular fashion.
yes,
And if you didn't have any choice about that, you necessarily did it, period, given specific criteria, whether they are real
yeah,
world criteria or whether they are fictional criteria, and you have no choice, you have to roll that, then that keeps you away from that problem of forcing things or trying to manage them.
yes.
Those are two dials, and I would beware of spinning each one or changing each one at the same time too
Okay,
much,
fair enough.
because then
Fair
you
enough.
won't know what dynamic is really occurring. That you'll be assuming a lot if you say, oh, well, this happened, well, it must be because of this, and you fix one of them and you
hmm
have no idea whether that actually was the cause. Does that make
Yeah, that's a
sense?
really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah,
So those are sort of my thoughts at this time.
yeah,
um we've hit the point where I should probably start making my kids dinner.
yeah,
So I think that probably will do it for now. Is that good?
yeah. That's great.
But it sounds like a great start. I mean,
Yes, we're having so much fun. Like
yeah,
both sessions were a bomb. Can I cover
yeah,
one
sure.
last, because I think this topic is actually really important, and I think you will be interested in it. Like I think like I had been thinking about the humanity in Sorcerer and the idea of the fruitful void, right?
Hmm.
And because I've been playing Sorcerer at the same time as this game as I'm making this game, um, and I think like I had a discussion. You
I just
remember
have this
that
this
guy?
terrible this terrible image of like sucking on the sorcerer pipe, and it's kind of like
Yeah, yeah. It's addictive. I'm really enjoying Sorcerer, but well, I don't need to explain to you what humanity does in Sorcerer, so I'll skip that. But
so
the
what's your thought?
the thought is the equivalent of humanity in this game is like, as the from the fruitful void perspective, is like, how much do you want to get involved, right? And if so, how, right? Because you can just like solve the mystery, find the truth, and leave.
Right. So solve the mystery is a given. We're going to just put that there, right? We're just
Well,
going to
either you
put that
solve
there.
it or it's going to become clear by itself. Although that doesn't count as solving it, but
No,
sure,
I
yeah.
get that. I get that. What I'm saying is the activity towards solving the mystery, that's pretty much a given. Right.
Yes.
Okay. And so then when
Yeah.
you say get involved, you mean in any other way.
Yes.
Okay.
In the conflicts that are going
Right.
on
I understand. Yeah.
surrounding it. And there was this player who, again, is the guy that I told you about that is kind of a status person and needed to comment. Who, first of all, he compared my game to Vyson. I'll let that slide, but yeah, whatever. And then he said, like, well, towards the end, when people started getting involved in conflicts, I felt uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do because the game isn't telling me what to do. And I thought this was an investigation game, but now it's a conflict game. So, like, you should make that clear what it is. And also, if I am to get into a conflict, I need some instruction on like what my character wants. So I play the character, and I'm like,
Wow.
no,
That's
I refuse to write that.
that's pretty interesting. It's sort of an
Yeah,
interesting.
and I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, that's
I
I
kind
don't
of
want to
do.
play.
I hear what you're saying. That
Yeah.
you're enjoying the fact that different people will get their characters uh, invested in
Yes.
aspects of the situation that are not just mandating, here we work on the mystery.
Yeah.
And I think that actually makes a lot of sense. It's a very exciting point, actually. And it goes all the way back to those things that I was asking about in the beginning, which is people operating according to the situation as they understand it, and knowing that they can go do a thing if they so
Yeah.
desire.
Yeah.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense. I think we've
Yeah.
got a very strong set of points that we put together this time.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm honestly, I'm after playing just 2 times, and even with the rules being like needing a fix or
all
two,
over the place, of course. Yeah.
I'm fully convinced this game is the fucking bomb, and I love it.
Do
Like, I'm loving it. Yeah.
Go jump in with
I want to play it more. I need to write more mysteries now.
Hooray! Excellent.
Yeah.
Talk to you later, Claudio. Take care.
See you around. Thank you very much.